Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out to this workshop. The first workshop on our comprehensive plan update. Meeting is called to order. And Mr. Director.
I think over here we go to one slide. Is that, are you comfortable with it? On the slide, you know, we have a nice round table stuff.
Not on.
Yes.
Oh. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ashley Sweet. I am with the firm of Weston and Sampson, and I am the project manager for your comprehensive plan project. I also have Logan Leeds with me, who's in the audience over there. He is a project planner with us and will be working on this project as well. So for tonight, as Jason said, this is our kickoff to this project where we're going to introduce the project to the Plan Commission. We'd like to kind of introduce ourselves to you, give you an overview of the comprehensive plan, the purpose of the comprehensive plan, and a little bit about process. We'll go over the project approach and schedule with you, a public engagement plan, the role of the Plan Commission in this project, and then some next steps. And please, if you have questions at any time, feel free to interrupt. As Jason said, we want this to kind of be a conversation, not a formal presentation to you. So please interrupt at any time. So as I said, I'm Ashley Sweet. I'm the project manager. I have Logan Leeds with me. We have other team members that will be working on this project: Jim Reardon, Susan Mara, Joanna Nadeau, Erin Herrick, and Bella Purdy. There are also other individuals, but this is the main core group of people that will be working on drafting chapters, implementing the survey, doing the website, and all the other components associated with the project. So very briefly, kind of wanted to start at the beginning with you and talk a little bit about what is a comprehensive plan, why you're doing this work. So the comprehensive plan is the city's guidance document. It's your policy document. It's relatively high level in terms of providing like long-term growth and development management. It considers natural resources and the environment. It creates a policy framework for future policy decisions. All the decisions that are made within the city have to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. It involves an open and democratic planning process. We want public engagement and public input. We want to hear from the public. And it helps strengthen and preserve the local community identity. So a comprehensive plan is essentially made up of elements. There are certain required elements by the state of Rhode Island: housing, land use, community services and facilities, cultural resources, natural resources, economic development, transportation. You have to address climate change and natural hazards. You have to address water supply and agriculture, and those can be rolled into other chapters or they can be standalone chapters, but those are all required elements that have to be, and housing, I mentioned housing, it has to be touched upon in a comprehensive plan. So really at the very top of a comprehensive plan is a community vision statement. How does Cranston see itself now and in the future? And there's a data analysis and existing conditions component, which is what we are currently working on, where we are pulling updated data from census and from other locations and looking at your existing plan and how that needs to get updated in terms of creating a baseline for existing conditions, because that's the foundation of the plan. We have to understand where you are in order to plan for where you want to go. We're looking at trends and estimates and future projections. We need to think about how the city has grown previously, how it's projected to grow in the future, so that we can plan for things like transportation and community services. Comprehensive plans are 20-year planning horizons. We're supposed to be looking 20 years out. They're required to be updated interimly between now and that 20-year horizon. But ultimately, you're looking 20 years out, thinking about how the city is going to grow and how you're going to get to that growth and how you're going to manage that growth and how you're going to service that growth. A component of the comprehensive plan is an implementation plan, and that's where we set the goals and the policies and the action items that the city will follow in order to achieve that overall community vision. A piece of this also is that there is a requirement for certain maps. So we're going to be looking at mapping your natural resources, your historic and cultural resources. We look at mapping transportation networks, and we incorporate graphs and charts to, graphically represent the data that we're collecting. That's really, as I said, the foundation or the baseline for the comprehensive plan. So as I said, it's a 20-year plan. This is, you have a plan that was done in 2010. So your plan is aging, and is about 13 years old at this point. We want to look at not just growth, but also how we protect and manage natural resources through that growth. We want to be thoughtful about land use and land use conflicts. We want to coordinate growth and development. We want to provide for a range of housing options. We want to ensure that the city has economic development so that you can balance the needs of the community. So there is a state approval process in Rhode Island, which is a little unique. That's not the case necessarily in, say, like Massachusetts, where the state does not approve the local comprehensive plan. Rhode Island is pretty specific about not only what has to be in your plan, but the fact that they do review it against the other state guide plan elements to ensure that your local plan is consistent with state guide plan elements. So there is two different ways to do this. We can go through the entire process and draft the plan and then send it to the state for adoption. The state coordinates a review to, like I said, to look at all of those state guide plan elements and make sure that it's consistent. And then there is a state determination in terms of an approval or non-approval of the comprehensive plan. The alternative is to provide them chapter by chapter or in groups of chapters as we're going through the drafting process. This gets state feedback early on in the process and shortens the time frame at the end of the process when they ultimately have to give an approval. We can shorten that window that they get by working with them through the process. So we recommend that this is the approach that you take. So as we finalize a chapter, we can send that chapter to statewide planning. We ask them to take a look at it. They review it against their requirements. They'll give us feedback and say, we think you need to update this section. We think you need more on, pedestrian amenities, or we'd like to see it more reflective of the bicycle plan for the state. And so we can incorporate that feedback during the process so that by the end of it, a lot of their comments that we would have received are addressed. It shortens the end timeframe in terms of getting state approval. There are handbooks. In Rhode Island, there is a handbook for every chapter, which, I encourage you to take a look at. They're available on the state's website. They're really helpful. It gives you a very good overview of what a goal is, what a policy is, what an action item is. And then chapter by chapter gives you an overview of what it is that they're looking for you to address in that plan. So we use those handbooks as we go through the process. So for this particular project, as I said, we are currently working on the study and analysis of existing conditions. We're looking at your existing plan. We're looking at updated data, and we're beginning to draft the existing conditions sections of the plan. We will have a public workshop component with this. That should say city council and plan commission meetings, and then a final draft for statewide planning. This is a little bit unique in the approach that we're taking in Cranston because of the age of your plan. So your plan is from 2010. It's approaching 13 years, or is 13 years. I believe it was July, it turned 13. And the General Assembly recently passed a bill to amend the Comprehensive Plan Act that states that if a comprehensive plan is not updated within 12 years of its original date of adoption, it cannot be used to deny a land use decision. So we need to get your plan updated before that bill takes effect in March. So we're going to do this in a two-phased approach. We're going to go through and update all of your existing conditions. We're going to hold a public workshop and gather input from the community. We're going to work with you and the city staff to update the goals, policies, and actions, at least identifying what's been accomplished, what hasn't been accomplished, what's still relevant that would carry over. We're going to have a updated draft with updated goals and policies and actions, and that updated draft will go to your city council, and your city council will hopefully adopt that draft prior to March, when your plan essentially turns into a pumpkin and can't be used anymore for land use decision-making, at least for denying land use decision-making. Without hesitation, we will continue that process after that March deadline, do more public engagement, continue to gather input. We'll put out a survey, and we will continue to update and add to the plan from that point forward until we finalize the document. So it's an interim step in the middle to prevent you from coming to a place where you have a comprehensive plan that can't be used to, make land use decisions, recognizing that we probably won't get all the way through the process by then, and the process will continue. So the plan will continue to get updated. We will continue to do public engagement. It will be further reflective of the needs and desires of the community. And then that plan will then also go to your city council for adoption, and that plan will go to statewide planning ultimately for approval by the state. So here is an overview of the project schedule. You can see that we've got basically two different colors going on there. Everything in phase one that I just described between the two different phases of the project is going to happen within those gray boxes. As I said, your plan was adopted in July of 2010. So that's the kind of the date where we know that becomes an issue. And then the lighter gray boxes is the continuation of that process where, like I said, we'll continue to gather input and data from the citizens, from the plan commission, and from staff. And so we'll continue to update. As I mentioned, we're going to do this in two phases. We've also kind of segmented the public engagement part. So in the beginning, we will have a public workshop. That workshop will be a bigger picture kind of overview of the comprehensive plan, and really asking people to weigh in on what they love about Cranston, what they'd like to see improved about Cranston, you know, what direction do the citizens want the community to go in? And we will draw from that public input and update the plan based on that. And then we will also have a website. The website will be available for use by the public to engage and participate in phase one. And then in phase two, it will continue to get updated. We will continue to post materials to that website so it's easily accessible for the public. We will have additional public workshops that will be more focused on topic areas. So we may lump together certain items like natural resources, open space and recreation, and, you know, natural hazards. Maybe we create a workshop out of that. So they're generally topic specific, and people can weigh in on those particular items in more detail. There also will be a public survey. That survey will get posted to the website and will be available for the public to access. We can also provide a paper copy the city can print out and make available, and make arrangements for people to pick it up and drop it off, however is convenient. So this is a screenshot of the website as it currently exists. We have sent a questionnaire to the staff. They're in the process of finalizing those questions in terms of what exactly we want this website to look like. So we will be updating this based on the feedback and the answers that we get from the department. But you can see up at the top, there's a place for announcements. There's a place for updates. There is a link, there will be a link to the survey. There is an opportunity to have an interactive map on the website where people can drop a pin and write comments and say, I hate driving on Park Ave at 3 o'clock in the afternoon because of the traffic, and you should do something about it. People can put questions in, they can send comments. And the maps will go up there in draft form. We can put the chapters up there in draft form so that everything is readily available, easily accessible to the public, you know, just by clicking a mouse. So the role of the Plan Commission in this project is to work with the planning department to provide us with direction. We're going to be giving you draft chapters of the existing conditions and ask you to look at those. You all live here, you know your city, you know what's happening right now far better than we do. So we're going to rely on you to provide us with that feedback and tell us, you know, you missed this, or that's in the wrong place. We should be talking about this instead. We will take your written comments. We'll come to meetings and meet with you and discuss chapters with you. We encourage you, if you want to give us written comments on the chapters themselves. You can use track changes. You can just use a pen and write all over them. We will take all of that feedback back, and we will make sure that that all gets incorporated into the chapters. We'd love for you to encourage public participation and to tell people this is going on, and, you know, push them to the website and tell them that everything is available there. We want to hear from the public. We want to make sure that we incorporate their feedback as much as possible. So some next steps on the chapter. We are in the process of reviewing your current plan. I would encourage, if you haven't taken a look at it recently, tell us what you like about it, what you don't like about it, what you'd like to see done differently. We're working with staff right now to try to finalize an outline of what the order of the chapters are and where things are going to live. As I said before, you have to address certain items, but there's nothing prescriptive from the state that says you have to have these chapters. It's just, you have to cover these issues. How we organize that is really up for discussion. We want you to start thinking about a vision. You know, like I said, what is Cranston now, and where does it want to be 20 years out? We're looking also for feedback from you on ideas for stakeholders. Are there specific people that we should be reaching out to and talking to, and bringing them into this process? As I said, you guys know your city, you know the people that are here better than we do. So we're looking to you for some guidance in terms of who are the right people to talk to, who do we need to get in touch with? And we are currently in the process of working on drafting the existing conditions chapters. So we have a team of people, as I mentioned in an earlier slide, that are in the process of looking at your existing chapters, gathering updated data, and working towards drafting those sections for an update. Because as I said, the existing conditions really is the foundation of the plan. We need to know where you are before we can plan for where you want to go. And that's all I have for you. So I'm happy to answer questions or have a larger discussion if anyone has anything they want to talk about.
Thank you, Chairman. Ms. Sweet, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking on this project and working with us and getting this done at warp speed. So first I'll talk about the timeline. I just want some clarification and some understanding on this. You said that our original comprehensive plan was adopted. Basically, we have to get something done within 12 years of when the plan was adopted under the new state law. And you used the reference of 2010. My understanding is we adopted the comp plan in 2010, but then we made changes to it in August of 2012. And that was then approved by the state in October of 2012. So I don't know if, I don't like to put attorneys on the spot and you're not an attorney, but I wonder if the 12 years kicks in is in the like the October 2012, August 2012 timeframe, rather than having to get it done by March. You don't need, you don't need to get into it now, but that's just something to think about, is that we may have more time than what you originally is stating.
It's definitely worth looking at. It depends, I think, and again, I'm not an attorney, but I think it's going to depend on what was done in 2012, because the community is allowed to update or make changes to its plan 4 times a year. So if that was just a change, it probably doesn't qualify, but I think it's definitely worth looking into and digging in a little bit deeper to see if that could actually qualify as the date.
Thank you. And I appreciate you taking a look at it, because again, I wasn't involved in this stuff 10 years ago. But what I believe is that a comp plan was put forward, approved by the council in 2010, but the state had to get involved. And we had to make changes to get the state to approve it. So we made changes in August of 2012, and then the state approved it in October 2012.
Okay, so it should go from the date of state approval, but the change to the laws doesn't specifically state that. So it's definitely something that I can contact statewide planning and ask about.
Sure. And you feel free. I mean, I don't like to volunteer our city solicitor here, but if he has an opinion, I'm sure he can weigh in as well. So I just wanted to put that first out there. On the process part you talked about, I'm okay personally I think you explained as option 2, which was as we proceed going forward with the state, they would review something, we get our feedback, and then we can do stuff. The only caution I have is 2 things. One is if that's going to really slow down the process, because we need to have something approved, whether it's by March 2024 or October of 2024. So when you talk to statewide planning, if this collaborative process is going to slow the trains down, I'd rather go with option 1 rather than be us left with a pumpkin, as you said earlier. And second, the goal, of course, is to get something that's approved by our community and by the state. But as you probably know, in the past, Cranston has had a comp plan, I think it was in 92, where a part of it was never approved by the state. It had to deal with the prison portion, I think. So, and that was because the city felt very strongly about some issues over there on the prison. So just be aware of that. We may get into situations where Cranston's leaders and community may feel one thing and the state may not feel the same way. And we have to make a decision about how we want to proceed. I'm sorry to keep talking, but I'd rather just get this all out for you and everybody else can hear it and then they can see the council people already left. So, but, I'm sorry. All right. We also have a sense of humor here. In regards to, I saw what's the role of the planning commission? And working with you and stuff like that. Personally, I take my role as a commissioner pretty seriously. I feel I have an obligation to do what I think is in the best interest of the city. I put a lot of time into this volunteer activity. And I take it that I have to give the council and the mayor the best advice I can. With that said as well, I like to be able to talk to the consultant. You've been hired to help us. So I like to say is, at least from my perspective, I like to be able to call you or contact you to understand stuff, if that's possible. Or have it by email. I don't care how we do it. Because there will be occasions where I need to understand something and I'm not understanding it, or I need some more information. You have expertise that I don't have. You know what other comprehensive plans are across the state. I don't. I just have like vague familiarities. So what I will be relying on you, and I think some of my fellow commissioners will be, to maybe like talk to you directly and or your staff or your team to say, hey, if we're interested in a policy goal, what has other communities done? How have they gone about it? Because I think I'd like to, when you hire somebody, I like to hear directly from that person and get their vantage point versus like getting filtered through other people. And let me see. And my last thing you talked about is like what our views are on the city and stuff. And I'll give you my initial like 10-second thing. So that I can express to you and I can express to my colleagues and the members of the public and the city council. I consider Cranston to be primarily a residential suburb. And I say that because a century ago, our Mayor Rhodes said that we are a city primarily of homes. And we adopted our zoning plan in 1924. And the city planner referred to us as primarily a residential suburb. We are still a residential suburb today, primarily. And my goal in this plan, amongst all the others, is to make sure this community stays primarily a residential suburb. And therefore, I'll be probably talking with you about certain goals and certain things in the plan that I really like. For example, there's land use goal. Like you're talking about what's in the plan that I like, right? Here it comes. Land use goal 9. Land use goal 9, and which is also principle 4. Protect and stabilize existing residential neighborhoods. Land use goal 9.3. Preserve the existing density of residential neighborhoods. Those are things that I'm going to be I feel pretty strong about, and I'm going to do everything I can to maintain. So I just want to let you and my colleagues know that, and the members of the public. And thanks for listening to me. And that's really what I got to say for now. Thanks.
I'm happy to, make myself available. I think it's important that we kind of keep the lines of communication open. So I'm happy to have you email me. I would just ask that in doing that, you copy the planning department so that we're all kind of on the same page. And certainly if I don't have the answer for you, I can go back to, the group of people that are working on this and I can bring you an answer. So I'm happy to have Jason share, or I can share with you directly my email and phone number. As long as we're all kind of talking together.
No,
It's
no,
fine.
no problem with that. See, I'm a very direct person. And so I have no problem CCing Jason on what I have to say.
Other questions, comments from members of the commission? Commissioner Lanfear.
I'm not sure this is working. Okay, can you hear me? Is that better? Okay. Ms. Sweet, thank you. I'm pleased that you will be assisting us to get through this, and I know we're familiar with you in your capacity as representing neighborhood groups and other organizations before us. So I appreciate your expertise and will be relying on that as well. A couple of things. I'm glad that you mentioned the Rhode Island Comprehensive Plan Guidance Handbook, because one of the things that I wanted to ask you, and perhaps you can share that with us or just provide us with a link to it. Because I know that in our analysis of matters that have come before us, when we look at our comp plan, we see goals, we see policies, we see actions. I don't have the background and expertise that you do. So when I look at that, sometimes I may rely on something and I am told it's only aspirational. And so I guess what I want to know, and I'll take a look at those definitions, but I think it's important for us to know where we put something in the comp plan so that it actually carries out what the intent of the commission and all of those who had input into it actually intends to be carried out in that comp plan. The other thing I had a question about on timeline, and I think that Commissioner Frias raised most of it, and what I say may be redundant, but it may just be said in a different way. When you talked about it being sent in either complete or in segments, my concern was and again, council may need to weigh in on this, but are we certain that the initial submission will toll the application of the state law so that we can rely on that comp plan post-March or post-October? Do we know that?
So I'll tell you, my experience is that you don't know anything for sure from state law until it gets challenged and decided by a court. I mean, I can't tell you the answer to that. I don't think a lawyer can tell you the answer to that because it's brand new. It has not been implemented yet, and we don't have any experience with that. What the change to the law says is that you have to have an updated comprehensive plan. It does not say you have to have a state approved comprehensive plan. It says you have to have an updated comprehensive plan. Our goal is to give you an updated comprehensive plan. Ultimately, we will give you a state approved comprehensive, hopefully a state approved comprehensive plan. But that's the language in there says updated.
I understand that, and I can appreciate that if we only had a crystal ball, it would be much easier. I just want to be certain that what we submit would be viewed as if not state approved yet, a complete comprehensive plan, not pieces of a comprehensive plan.
Yeah, I mean, our intent is that you will have a document, a complete document of all the chapters that that everyone agrees on in the organization and the formatting and all of that. And all the data will be updated, and we will have gone through the goals, policies, and actions. We will have stripped out, those that we can say have been achieved. We will carry over those that we can say, are still relevant. And then we can have a conversation around, does it make sense to keep this or take this out? Should we change the wording? How do we want to address that? That will have happened by the time, your plan turns into a pumpkin, which I think we have to decide when that is. The second part of it really is about spending more time going out to the community, spending more time kind of trying to gather more stakeholder and public input so that we can further refine those goals, policies, and actions, and then give you a finalized plan that you would then submit to the state. So the idea will not to be, to hand you a bunch of disjointed chapters and say, good luck. It will be to have as a complete of an update as possible in the time frame given.
And would be what those in the business would say is a complete comprehensive plan.
Yes,
Okay,
it will have all the pieces necessary to be a complete document.
okay. And I would just say, going back to your answer to my question about no one really knows what they will say is when we turn into a pumpkin, would lead me also to say that means we have to act in the most conservative way possible to be sure that we comply with the most restrictive timelines so that the city doesn't find itself in a position where we do not have a comp plan that can be relied on should something come before us that would normally not be consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Absolutely in agreement.
And my last comment is just with regard to one of the items you had under the process was that the commission would have the ability to review draft chapters should we want to do so. I would just ask that when the time comes and there are drafts for our review, that instead of just being placed on the public website for review, that they be sent directly to the commissioners, just because I can only speak for myself, but I don't go on every day and check a website, but I do check emails. And if I were to receive one that said, here's a draft that needs to be reviewed with a time frame, I would make sure that I did that. So I think that it would just be an aid to the commissioners if you could send those to us by way of just a group email to the commission, as well as things being posted on the website.
So
Please.
our approach has always been with this, that it's not going on the website until you have looked at it. So we will send you draft chapters, whether it comes directly from me or goes through the planning department and then gets distributed to you, as we haven't determined that exactly, but the process will be that you will review them. We can also talk about the idea, and we've done this before, where we have put together similar chapters that, have some overlap and cover, similar items, where those drafts are sent to you in advance. I'll come to your meeting, whether you schedule a special meeting or you add it to an agenda. I'll come to the meeting. We can talk about those chapters. I can give you kind of an overview of what's in them. We can discuss specific items that you have of concern. You can give me, your feedback. You can send me an email with a list of all the things you want to see, changed in there. Like I said, you can do track changes. You're welcome also to write on a paper copy and get that I live 10 minutes away. I can come pick them up. However we can get your feedback and input, we're happy to do that. And so we can meet, on a somewhat interim basis to pull those chapters together, sit together, talk about them, go through them. And they won't, everything is public once it goes to the planning department. So if somebody wants to come in and look at a chapter, they're welcome to do that, certainly. But we want to put chapters up there that have gone through the commission first, that have been fully updated to the extent possible before we put them out for public consumption. Because we want to avoid things like, you guys got that intersection wrong. That's not the right place. It needs to be over here. We don't want the public to have to be the ones that weigh in on those things. We want to hear that feedback from you so that the interested public that is reading this can not focus on those little things, and look at the bigger picture and give us more general feedback. So we would certainly not put anything on the website that has not gone through the commission first.
Other commission members, questions, comments?
Just a quick follow-up, something Commissioner Lampier mentioned. And something you mentioned earlier I didn't say was, you talked about a questionnaire you sent to the staff that the staff's looking at. I'd like you to send me a copy of that questionnaire as well. Okay. Because I think the commissioners, if they want to, should have some feedback of what's being asked of the public on this. And the last big picture issue I thought about was the Cranston, planning for Cranston is really a unique thing in Rhode Island. And when I say that, because we have rural, suburban, urban, and coastal. You will not find another community that really has that kind of mix. And what makes us such a great place to live is that it provides a variety of choices for people to live. If you want to live in a more urban setting, you want to live by the water, you want to live in a rural area or a suburban area. And that's something I think I wanted to say, in that we want to preserve that. I like preserving choices. I don't believe in one size fits all. And that's why people like living in Cranston. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to encourage anyone who is here to express any questions or comments. I would ask you to come to the microphone only because this is going out online on the internet, and that's the only way people are going to be able to hear you. So if you would feel free to step up and just state your name and address for the record. Thanks.
Hi, Annette Bourne, 51 Community Drive. Many of you know me as a Research and Policy Director for Housing Works Rhode Island. I'm also the Secretary of the Housing Commission here, but I'm speaking in my capacity as a resident. Ashley, I just wanted to understand, so the March 2024 deadline, are you thinking that that would be a city council approved document, or that would be all the elements of a comprehensive plan?
So it'll be all the elements of a comprehensive plan. It may not, at that point, it will not have gathered fully the public's input, but it will go to the city council as an updated document. The data will be updated. The goals and policies and actions will be updated to the extent possible at that time.
So would we be calling for a vote of the city council to approve the plan at that time?
Yes.
So would a subsequent plan be considered an amendment to the plan?
No.
It would be a whole new plan for
It will-
statewide planning to review?
So
And I know we're all in new territory. I
we are in
totally
new
get it. I
territory
get it.
in a lot
Right.
of
Yep.
ways, as you and I have discussed many times. The idea is that we will, as I said, we will update all of the chapters. We will update the goals, policies, and actions to the extent possible by that time frame. We will gather as much community input as we can. We will present to the city council an updated comprehensive plan. The city council will adopt that updated comprehensive plan. again, without hesitation, we will continue the public participation process. We will launch the survey. We will gather all that input. We will continue to update and incorporate all of that information into the city adopted plan, city adopted and updated plan, for ultimate submission to statewide planning for approval.
So the plan that is adopted by the city council in March will not theoretically be the same plan that is offered to statewide planning at the end of the process of that updated plan.
Correct.
Okay,
So this is an interim step in the middle of all of this, but ultimately the plan that does go to statewide planning also requires that the city council update it.
I know.
So,
I mean,
or
I-
excuse me, adopt it.
yeah,
So
no, I
that end process won't look any different than it normally would. There's just going to be this intermediary step where the city council adopts an updated
Mm.
plan
right.
in the middle.
Right. So I would urge, honestly, to continue that dialogue. I know commissioners have expressed delay by having statewide planning staff review, but I can tell you from my own experience as somebody who has read the housing chapters in a state capacity, that the feedback you get from statewide planning will be very, very helpful in that next process of actually getting to state approval. I would offer the commissioners that there are a number of excellent comprehensive plans on the statewide planning website. I would point to Warwick, given that we are the second largest city in the state. Warwick is the third largest city, and they have an excellent plan. Westerly's also just recently got adopted. And I also want to point out to the commissioners, to Ashley, that we have a very active health equity zone here who actually we're doing some transportation work with right now with Craig. And we also have a housing commission who also stands ready to assist, you know, not only with reviewing relevant portions, but also with ensuring robust public participation. So thanks very much.
Anyone else? The floor is open. Sure.
Good evening. Robert Murray, 75 Debbie Drive in Cranston. I'm not here tonight on behalf of anybody beyond myself. Nice to see you, Ashley. Just two comments. One, and I don't have answers, but I sympathize with the law department, planning staff, the consultant, and the commission as to we're kind of in a zone here of new land use laws, a very, just a discussion tonight about what's the operative date and things like that. I don't have an opinion right now on that, but it's a challenge that you're going to have to face, and you're going to have to make the best judgment you can with legal advice. But I see that as an issue that has to be reckoned with. I just want to comment on that, and because frankly, and Mr. Marcelo and I have talked about this, these new land use laws that General Assembly enacted, I'm still struggling with to try and advise clients, if we do this now or we do it in January 1. So, I mean, it's a field of law and regulations that we're all going to wrestle with for a while, I think. My only other question, picking up from Commissioner Frias, who, I agreed with many of the comments that he made about the city and its component parts, but my initial feeling tonight is that this process is not, it's a comprehensive plan. It is not intended to subscribe itself to every possible, consideration that could happen. It's supposed to be broad enough to give guidance to, property owners, the commission, developers and residents as to what the city council, the planning commission view as the big picture. This should not be a process that we use to like square old grudges or, you know, a specific piece of property or a topic like that. That's my next to last thought. My last question, and you may not have an answer on this. One is in the present comprehensive plan, we have an appendix of a variety of by plat and lot of lots that should be rezoned, which, you know, historically, there's been no action taken on that. At the end of this process, do we anticipate a similar appendix that will identify properties like that? Or, you know, I just don't know what the thinking is on that. If you know, you know.
Yes, possibly doing the same, excuse me, the same type of appendix. And then it's up to the council to make those zone changes, which, you know, 1,500 zone changes in a few fell swoops has always been kind of a hard pill to swallow. So, but the appendix has been helpful in the past.
Right. Yeah, and you know, and by the way, I'm not making a judgment. I'm trying to understand, you know, because we're on a, you know, you're going to go warp speed on a compressed schedule, and you know, what do you have the ability to look at in that time frame? And you know, because the last comment I was going to make was that, you know, it is, you know, 12, 13 years, whatever. You know, the reality is, my experience is, and I'm not making judgment or criticism, is that a lot of the recommendations for implementation of policies and goals, you know, just by nature, we haven't done. You know, it's just not, you know, I'm not saying it wasn't important, but you know, you know, so, you know, the goal, you know, the comprehensive plan should be aspirational and, you know, give guidance. But in reality, my experience has been that some of those recommendations get adopted and approved by the state or whatever, you know, still we don't have the time or the focus or the political will or whatever to follow through on those. And I'm not being critical. It's just, I think that's the reality. So it's in that context that I think you have to undertake this process. And that's all I have. And you may hear from me occasionally in the future, but thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Lima, do we have anyone waiting online who would like to ask a question or make a comment?
I see no public comment. A reminder to the folks on Zoom, though, you do need to use the raise hand feature in Zoom in order to be heard, or dial *9 if on the phone. I see no public comment, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lima. Well, wrap up in conclusion, and certainly want to thank everybody. I know that we'll all be seeing one another again during this process. I hope we will. And we really do call on any interested citizen to be a part of this. This is the city's comprehensive plan. And the more input that is provided, the better product it'll be in the end, and the better future that the city will have. So
I don't have anything further to go over with you. I'm happy, as I said, to provide my contact information to anyone that wants it, and we'll work with the planning staff to kind of, you know, plan out for next steps so that the commission can be apprised of where we are, where we're going next, when to be ready to receive, you know, some draft chapters. And, you know, we can schedule, like I said, we can schedule some public meetings to go through those together.
Ashley, do you think we'll have enough to talk about for next month for the October meeting? Or do we want to hold off and maybe have that meeting in November?
So I think it's probably a good idea at this, we're in the middle of working on the first set of existing conditions chapters. So I would say we have like a internal deadline of like mid-October. So by your November meeting, we can have those for you. We can give them to you in advance. You can have some time to go through them, to comment on them, to, pull your thoughts together, and then we could sit down in November and go through that first set, if that works for the commission.
Okay, and we had talked about the third Wednesday. So in November, that would be November 15th. So that's, we could circle that date and, okay, plan for the November 15th. Okay.
Okay, there being no further business or discussion, I'll just accept the
Chairman.
motion
Mr.
to,
Chairman, I just wanted
yeah,
to
I'm sorry.
quickly, I think I'd put a couple things on the agenda. So we're still soliciting for tech. We kind of struck out with that process, so we do not have Alex's replacement just yet, but we're still looking. The other item is next meeting, we have basically a pretty meaty workshop on the state ordinances, the state changes to the zoning code. That's going to be that's going to take up the majority of the meeting. We only have a couple of zonings, and then we're going to do that workshop because those need to get into ordinance format and get to the council by mid-October, the latest, so that we can get those before the council for actually December at that point. So we're getting real close to the deadlines, but we've made pretty good progress on those. The subdivision regulations will come probably in November, and we don't have the same advertising requirements. So October 3rd will be our workshop on those ordinances.
So yes, Commissioner Lanfear.
Mr. Chairman.
We will get those to you as soon as it's ready, and it's a workshop on the ordinances. We're not going to be acting on them at this meeting. This is just a workshop to go through the language that most of it's mandated from the state. We won't be required to actually make formal recommendations on those until the December meeting. Okay, so we'll get those to you as soon as we're ready. Those will get posted up to the website like we always do.
Commissioner Dallas, did you have a?
And
but I will
Chairman,
accept-
one
more thing.
One last thing. Okay, so we're talking a lot of meetings. October 21st is still what we're targeting for the Costco joint workshop, the Plan Commission and the City Council. So, okay, so that. And one last item, Council President had called me. She sent her regrets. She wanted to be part of this meeting, and she just wanted me to convey that to the commission that she regrets she had a family commitment. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn. Commissioner Lanfear moves to adjourn, seconded by Commissioner Mancini. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And thank you, everyone.